It's old, it's inefficient, it drinks fuel like there's no tomorrow. And yet, while most airlines have sent it to the scrapyard, Lufthansa is still flying it, proudly. The Airbus A340, a four-engine jet that most of the aviation world considers a relic, just refuses to die. And the real story behind why Lufthansa hasn't retired it yet is way more interesting than nostalgia. It's a mix of timing, economics, strategy, and a little bit of good old-fashioned stubbornness. Let's start with the obvious question. Why on earth would any modern airline still want a quad-engine jet in 2025? Airlines everywhere are scrambling to replace older, fuel-hungry aircraft with newer, greener, and cheaper models. Twin-engine jets like the A350 and 787 burn less fuel, carry almost as many passengers, and cost less to maintain. On paper, there's no reason the A340 should still exist in a commercial fleet. And yet, Lufthansa, Germany's flag carrier, not only keeps it flying, but also keeps adjusting its retirement date further into the future. They were supposed to say goodbye to the A340-600 in 2025. Then they said early 2026. And even now, they're still scheduling flights with it across their long-haul network. That's not a delay. That's a deliberate choice. Part of that choice comes down to a simple reality. The future isn't here yet. Lufthansa's big plan was to swap out its aging A340 fleet for shiny new A350-1000 and Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Those aircraft are more efficient, more environmentally friendly, and perfectly suited for the next era of air travel. But that plan has hit a wall. Boeing has struggled with production and certification issues. Airbus is facing global supply chain problems. And the much-anticipated Boeing 777-9, which was supposed to handle some of Lufthansa's busiest long-haul routes, won't arrive until 2026. In other words, Lufthansa's future fleet is stuck on the ground, literally. And until those jets arrive, the A340 remains the only reliable option for many routes. But there's another, less obvious reason the A340 is still around: money. These planes may guzzle fuel, but they're completely paid off. Most of them joined Lufthansa's fleet in the late 1990s and early 2000s, which means the airline no longer pays leases or financing costs on them. Every flight they operate isn't weighed down by massive monthly payments. And in a business where margins are razor thin, that matters. Even if a newer jet burns less fuel, it still comes with a massive price tag, often hundreds of millions of dollars per aircraft, plus financing costs that don't go away if passenger demand drops. With the A340, Lufthansa has the flexibility to ground a plane if needed without losing money. New planes don't give you that option. And then there's the revenue side of the equation. Lufthansa's A340-600s, in particular, are configured with a heavy premium focus. First-class suites, spacious business-class cabins, and fewer economy seats. That makes them ideal for high-yield routes where premium tickets bring in the bulk of the revenue. Think transatlantic business corridors like Frankfurt to Boston or long-haul destinations like Hong Kong. Even if the plane is less fuel efficient, the money made from premium passengers can more than make up for the extra fuel burn. That's a subtle but powerful reason Lufthansa keeps these aircraft in the rotation. The airline's cautious strategy during the pandemic also plays a big part in this story. When COVID-19 shut down global travel, Lufthansa parked a significant number of its A340s. But instead of sending them to the scrapyard, they held on to them, just in case. And when travel demand came roaring back faster than anyone expected, that decision paid off. They didn't have to scramble for new aircraft or cancel routes. They simply pulled the A340s out of storage, refreshed them, and put them back in the air. That move gave Lufthansa a critical edge over competitors who had retired their older jets too quickly. In fact, the A340 has proven its worth in more ways than just commercial flying. During the chaotic evacuation of Afghanistan in 2021, the German government needed reliable long-range aircraft on short notice to help evacuate people. Flying directly into Kabul wasn't safe, so they used staging points in Uzbekistan and other nearby countries. Lufthansa's A340-300s were chartered to shuttle evacuees from those locations back to Germany. These weren't luxury flights, they were humanitarian missions under immense pressure. And the A340 was perfect for the job. Long range, large capacity, and an experienced crew ready to fly it at a moment's notice. By the end of the operation, thousands of people had been evacuated to safety. That kind of versatility, being able to switch from commercial service to emergency response, is a rare and valuable trait in aviation. The A340 story also makes more sense when you remember why it existed in the first place. Back in the early 1990s, long-haul aviation had a very different rulebook. Twin-engine jets were restricted by ETOPS regulations, which limited how far they could fly from the nearest airport. That meant many transoceanic routes were off-limits. The A340, with its 4 engines, was designed to get around those restrictions. It could fly over remote oceans and polar regions without worry. At the time, it was a revolutionary solution, and airlines like Lufthansa snapped it up. They liked the balance it offered: smaller engines that were cheaper to maintain, strong takeoff performance, and cabin layouts that could be tailored for premium travelers. Of course, those advantages eventually faded. ETOPS limits increased, twin-engine reliability improved, and fuel efficiency became king. The A340 went from cutting-edge to outdated almost overnight. Many airlines moved on, but Lufthansa, ever pragmatic, kept using it where it still made sense. And today, those original decisions continue to shape their fleet strategy. Because of its 4-engine design, the A340 can handle certain routes and performance conditions that twin-engine jets might struggle with. And because Lufthansa built infrastructure and training around the type decades ago, it's still relatively easy and cheap for them to keep operating. Passengers, too, have a soft spot for this so-called relic. Despite its age, the A340 offers a smooth, quiet ride and a spacious cabin. Lufthansa has leaned into that, using 2 distinct versions: the A340-300 and the larger, longer A340-600, to serve different kinds of routes. The -300 is a versatile workhorse for mid-sized long-haul flights, while the -600, with its extra premium seating, is a moneymaker on business-heavy routes. And while it's not a brand new A350, most passengers walk off an A340 flight pleasantly surprised by the comfort and service. The truth is, Lufthansa isn't keeping the A340 because they're sentimental or resistant to change. They're keeping it because in 2025, it still solves real problems. It fills gaps created by delayed new aircraft. It generates revenue on premium routes. It gives the airline financial flexibility during uncertain times. And when the world throws unexpected crises their way, it's there, ready to fly. Of course, none of this means Lufthansa can keep flying the A340 forever. The writing is on the wall, and it's written in carbon emissions. Modern aircraft like the A350 and 787 burn significantly less fuel per seat and produce far fewer emissions. They're also quieter, which matters as airports tighten noise restrictions. Regulators, investors, and passengers alike are pressuring airlines to shrink their environmental footprint. And no matter how many premium seats an A340 carries, or how flexible it is during a crisis, it's never going to match the efficiency or eco-credentials of a next-generation twin-engine jet. That environmental pressure is building, and Lufthansa knows it. That's why the plan to retire the A340 is still very real. It's just delayed, not canceled. The current timeline points to early 2026 for the final farewell, with the last scheduled flight expected to connect Riyadh to Frankfurt. After that, newer jets like the A350-1000, Boeing 787-9, and eventually the 777-9 will take over its missions. These aircraft will deliver the same range and capacity, but with far better fuel economy, lower emissions, and reduced maintenance costs. Once they're fully in service, the A340 simply won't have a place in the fleet anymore. But until that moment comes, Lufthansa is determined to squeeze every drop of value out of this aircraft. And that's not just a matter of cost. It's about strategy. By keeping the A340 active, Lufthansa buys itself time to introduce new planes on its own terms, rather than rushing into deliveries before the aircraft or its onboard products are ready. It's also about operational resilience. The airline has learned the hard way that the aviation industry is unpredictable. Pandemics, supply chain breakdowns, certification delays, they all happen. And when they do, having a few fully owned, fully paid-off wide-bodies ready to go is a strategic safety net. The A340's ability to pivot from one role to another also makes it more valuable than it looks on paper. It's not just a stopgap for delayed deliveries. It's a Swiss Army knife that can switch between different types of missions with minimal fuss. Need to serve a business-heavy route where premium seating is key? The A340-600 is perfect. Need to boost long-haul capacity during peak travel season? Bring back a few negative 300s from storage? Need to move hundreds of people quickly during a humanitarian emergency? They've done it before, and they can do it again. Few aircraft types offer that level of versatility, and that alone makes the A340 worth keeping around a little longer. It's also worth remembering that not every airline has the same priorities or challenges. Low-cost carriers and budget operators chase maximum fuel efficiency above all else. They need every cent saved on operating costs. But Lufthansa's business model is different. A large chunk of its profit comes from premium passengers, corporate contracts, and long-haul business routes. For those markets, reliability, seat configuration, and schedule flexibility often matter more than squeezing out a few percentage points of fuel savings. The A340, with its premium-heavy layouts and proven reliability, fits neatly into that equation. It's not there by accident. It's there because it still matters. Because even in an industry obsessed with the future, sometimes the smartest move is to hold on to the past just a little longer. If you enjoyed this look into one of aviation's most unlikely survivors, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the skies. Trust me, there are plenty more fascinating tales like this waiting to take off.